This is another episode of our weekly uh, CMAs podcasts. Um, Today's episode, I am joined by Marin and by George. And if we have time, a special guest. We'll see if we get there. We had a little bit of a technical glitch here. Something about streaming it live. It was just not making the connection, and we rebooted and all these other things. And I'm not really sure what happened, and I apologize for that. But what we'll do is we'll post this retroactively, regardless. So we are currently in, what is it, week 5? Week 4?
5. Week 5.
Is it week 5?
Pretty
Okay.
sure.
They're kind of all bleeding together in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
So some of that being good, some of that maybe not being so good. But okay, so we're in week 5 of the school closure. And I thought this would be kind of interesting. So last week I had a conversation with a senior who's been in the program, Oriana, who's been in the program since her freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of talking about just an evolving creative process and a little bit about what that's like dealing with it in the context of a school closure. Certainly nobody expected this scenario. Nobody was expecting this situation. But obviously here we are. So I guess the question I wanted to ask you two, and George, you're a junior.
That is true.
And what? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. George is a junior, but Marin, and you're a freshman. And in and of itself, as you guys know, that's irrelevant. I mean, it's all about ideas and collaborating and stuff. But I'm curious, before we talk about what's going on right now in the world of school closures and stuff, let's start with something more fundamental. Prior to being part of what we do, had you considered how you went about creating things or making things? I mean, I know we're talking about middle school now, but
well, me personally, when I was in middle school, all I knew how to play on guitar was like 4 chords.
That's okay.
But then I joined the program, and I feel like there was just more of an incentive to kind of like learn things and make more of an effort to create stuff.
I recorded a lot of covers.
Okay.
A few of those, but I didn't really make my own music. I kind of just sung like whatever would come to mind, and then I didn't like write it down or put it in a software.
Okay. So let me ask both of you the same question then as a follow-up. Obviously, from what you're saying, it sounds to me, maybe not obviously, but it sounds to me like you're saying a change occurred at some point over the time that we've been working together. And I don't know if this is even a fair question you can even answer. Do you feel like the change that occurred was a result of the opportunity, or was it more a matter of the fact that you were no longer, I mean, in middle school, we look at the world differently. In high school, we look at the world differently. When you go out into the, in the real world after this, you'll look at the world differently than you do now and stuff. I'm just wondering if your instinct is you probably, would you have moved in this direction? Were there things that helped kind of push you there? Things you were afraid of, maybe? I don't know.
Well, I completely forgot what I was going to say. Well, I know coming into high school, I didn't really have any sort of intention to be really that serious of a musician.
Okay.
But upon joining the CMAs program and like working with all the people that I've worked with, it's trying to make me see the opportunity that there is to have fun making music and being creative and all stuff like that.
And I'm not looking for any kind of like, as a way to just get compliments about what we do. I don't mean that as the purpose of this. I guess I'm also just wondering, like, I'm always sort of fascinated with the notion that if you weren't feeling especially creative initially, what was the spark? What was the thing that made you go, you know what? I actually do want to push this further? Because both of you, and in very different ways, I should point out, are extraordinarily active and extraordinarily productive and your process is evolving, continue. I mean, I can see it happening on a daily basis, even in the situation we're in now, where I don't get to see you as often as I did before. Every time we do connect and every time we're talking about different ideas, I can see that there's still this progression happening. There's still this evolution going on. And I'm wondering, like, that's the part of it that fascinates me, is like, what makes that happen? And you know, I'm not going to name names, but that's not everybody. And you have classmates that are handling things differently, but have been handling things differently since long before the school closure bit. So I don't want to, you know, just throw it on that. I'm just wondering, like I said, I'll come back to, was it an age thing? Was it an opportunity thing? Was it just, I didn't know what I didn't know?
Mm.
Baron, do you have anything to say?
Yeah,
Or-
but so like I can say personally that if this happened during middle school and I was in CMAS, I feel like I wouldn't have worked as hard
Okay.
like during this time, because back then I just kind of didn't know how to be productive without going to school. But since then I've absorbed a lot of new information about how like I can personally teach myself stuff and stuff like that, and how like that works, self
Mm-hmm.
teaching and stuff. And that's why I've been doing a lot, but also because I'm very like determined to figure new stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, and nobody else would necessarily know this, but Marin, I think you are in on nearly every workshop we do. You, and I'm not saying this in a bad way at all. And this is, but I think this is part of your personality that's developed. I mean, when you know, you came in this year, a couple weeks into the school year, actually, as I remember,
Yeah, I was late to CMAS.
and that's okay. But you were kind of already, you had developed a fairly methodical approach, and it seems like you just kind of applied it. You know, George, in your case, you've always just sort of been the guy that's like, oh yeah, there's a thing to play. Okay, I'll come play on that. You know, like I don't, you know what I mean? Which is really
Yeah.
cool. You're just sort of like the go-to guy, because we need somebody to help with the, you know, the session or the gig or whatever. And you're just one of those people that's just there, you know, regardless of the details.
Yeah.
So some of that's got to be personality for both of you. I mean, I don't, I know you can foster that, and I know you can say that it can be trained, but I think to buy into it, you know,
Mm.
is trickier. So let me then ask you this. How has uh, if you want to get into the issue of time management and when you devote time to versus when you don't, versus when you're just kind of, you know, either on social media or video games or whatever. I'm not saying that in a negative way at all, but how has, as two examples of people that are producing material consistently still and working consistently still, what's changed in your process as you've had to deal with the realities of the closure? Or has it not changed and it's just, oh well, now I just am at home?
Uh, I mean, now for me at least, I guess like there's just sort of more time that I devote to like writing things as opposed to before. And I mean,
Okay,
like
is that
obviously,
because, wait, hold on. This is, to me, this is important. Is that because you're suddenly more efficient, or because you're like, you know what? I don't need to spend that entire hour on this other thing where I'd normally be in this other class, and I got it done in 10 minutes. So now I've got the extra time I can devote? Or, I mean, like what's the,
I think it's more so
or are
just
you blowing off the other classes, which of course we're not supposed to prevent.
sometimes it's that,
Don't
but
do that.
you know, it's just kind of the extra time, and then like with having that extra time, um, it's just kind of um, you know, I'm becoming more efficient, I guess.
Okay.
Writing stuff. Just I don't really know how to explain it.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Marin, is there anything that's going on for you that's
My creative process has changed a lot.
okay? In what ways?
Like when we were in school and creating stuff in CMAS, it would take a lot more time and like to come up with ideas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I'm at home, I get on the computer and I start messing around with it, and I feel like I get stuff done quicker.
Interesting. I wonder if that's just less distractions or more, I don't know, desperation to feel like at the end of it you come out with something. I mean, not to be funny, but
Might be that.
yeah. I mean, I've talked about this myself and even sent out some messages to folks that, this idea of like just to not get stuck in a rut, like just, make something even just for the sake of making it, let alone if it's any good or not, starts to feel a little more important in some ways. Do you guys see anything in how we're operating now that's positive and that you would want to continue as we go forward? Like, are there things that you're doing now and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna keep doing that?
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Like
It's not a test, but it kind of is. I'm kidding.
during the closure, you mean like stuff I want to keep for when it ends too?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like, not so much in like the stuff you're creating. Of course, I would hope you would keep that. I mean more like in the way you're going about things.
Yeah, I suppose so. Like, I guess what was good was I went about this with a plan. Uh, like I always plan things out. But like recently it's been like, what can we nail down? And I'm like, what can I plan to nail down before this is over? Or maybe like, just like, so I have something to do or stuff like that, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just wondering, like I'm looking at this, and different teachers are dealing with this situation in different ways for different reasons, and I would say understandably so. Everybody's kind of in their own learning curve and all of this. It's one thing to say we want to do online schooling, and it's another one to be like, well, guess what? We're doing online schooling and we're starting tomorrow and go. But I've sort of had this weird, I don't know, epiphany may not be the right word, but this sort of thought about how I'm using some of the things we're doing now. I'm looking at as far as keeping things moving forward for you creatively and collaboratively, hopefully, because that's important, as you know, to me, to help you with that. But I'm also looking at it in the context of what are some things we're doing because of the situation that actually would lend themselves to what we do in the future, regardless of school shutdowns, regardless of online learning, just in terms of making the process more efficient. Like I'll give you one example. Actually, I will give you two examples. One example is that I'm looking at a lot of the things instructionally and thinking, I know people still maybe want to get used to it and still want to get a sense of it all, but we could be doing a lot of the things that we take class time for. Those could be pushed online. We could do what we call a flipped classroom on a lot of that. And we could devote so much more time to just getting in the studio, so much more time to just doing workshops to share content. Little things that could free up more time and more opportunity. That's a positive as far as I'm concerned. The glitch today, notwithstanding about getting this podcast to stream live, I'm thinking about all of those showcases we do every year, or the lunch shows, or the one-off gigs, and there's literally dozens of them every year. I'm like, we should have it rigged up so that we just either post them immediately afterward, or we live stream them as we do that. That's not that big of it. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. We just haven't been doing them. So I'm thinking about things like that. Are they changing your process at all?
Mm.
Well, I mean, just kind of like shoot, how do I word this? If like something positive that's come out of the closure, I guess, which I guess is kind of what you're asking, like something we can keep doing afterwards, is like, because obviously we can't like go to people's houses or go out. I feel like there's just kind of we've been kind of forced to collaborate like more so like independently, kind of, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
You kind
I
of
guess
really have to contribute now to collaborate. You can't just kind of just passively.
right,
Yeah.
right. Now it's more of like yeah, exactly.
But
Um,
that's interesting to me that you would think of it that way. I think that's good to know.
but I
I
think
don't-
that after um this is all over and we can go back to school and stuff, I think it'd be cool if we could continue um like collaborating, like actively collaborating
Yeah.
together.
I agree.
Yeah. I wonder
Because
what.
like I mean, now I see like I see people who are like with the sound trap stuff, um there's it's we kind of can collaborate more
Mhm.
maybe than we could before, like rather than just being only exclusively collaborating at school, we can now expand it.
That's a really good point. I've wondered about that myself. Like if we've lost unintentionally, but how many opportunities got lost because, and I will take the hit for maybe even promoting this unintentionally more than I intended. The idea that the best stuff happens while you're at the school. This is opening up some possibilities for, you know, maybe that becomes like the hub, but getting more opportunities out and more things that you feel like you can. Because I think to some extent, some of what you're talking about has been a product, not of intention by anybody, but just simply this feeling like, well, I would do stuff. I don't have access to anything that's credible and viable and legitimate. And now, like you said, with Soundtrap and some other things that we've been able to get access to, um, maybe that's not really the case anymore. Maybe there are some more options. Maren, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, what's weird for me is like kind of like to do with this is that I've actually been like collaborating more with the other people in CMAS and like sharing more which says something
That
about
does.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give you one more question because like I know we started late and I don't want to take your whole afternoon and I could geek out on this forever, obviously.
So
Do you think some of that is, it's weird. Like on one level, you think the distance element is frustrating and it's cumbersome when things don't cooperate technology wise. But setting that aside, does it allow maybe another safety net of I can share this thing I made and I can do it in the same shared space, but like I could cut the camera, for example, so you just see my name or a picture, or you know what I mean? Like I've wondered about that. Like it can be very scary for people to share original work. We've talked about this for years. I mean, we talk about this every year at the beginning about how, you have to be respectful of everybody's process because everybody's in different places, but it's still a very potentially horrifying experience for somebody who's not used to doing it, or if they're just nervous in general. I wonder if the distance learning thing, for those of you that come in, there's a lot of people that come into these workshops and share more than they, like you said, more than they have before. I don't know. It's interesting.
for sure.
Well, I want to wrap up here. I want to thank both of you. I also, I know that we have, I want to see if I don't know if he's still here or not. Let me see if our special guest is available. Oh, there he is. We can't,
Hey,
what?
Hello there.
What's happening? We can't hear you.
hi.
What? No, it's still,
You guys hear something?
I
I
can
don't
hear
know. It's odd. So this is Eric. We're having a technical, I don't know this is really unfortunate because I feel like you'd have something to contribute. I can't even, so what is he doing? What is
What is
that?
that? The sound of
Okay, so he's
music.
got, these are classic. He's never,
These are cult classics.
these
But
are,
Fiddle
I
on the
don't,
Roof is probably the best of the three.
you're breaking up. We can't hear, see, it's all, it's really weird. There's some technical. I don't know. I am. I think. I don't think he's watched any of those. By the way, I just want to say that I don't think it's
Yeah,
out. I think he's just
Oh,
holding DVD covers. He's very excited right now. I wish we could hear it. I mean, I don't really because I've I've been in rooms with him and we're probably better off this way. But no, I don't know. It's not. So I apologize for our viewers. We can't hear. No, we cannot hear you. It keeps locking up. I don't know. No, it's not. We can't. I'm not really sure what's happening. And this is weird. I don't. And now, yep. See, we've lost his video. See, I don't know. It's just the technical glitches.
We're going through a tunnel right now.
We are a little bit. It's yeah. It's Mr. Luce. We can't hear you. It's tough to. We can't quite tell what's happening. Anyway, my apologies to Eric Luce for the technical errors that we had today to bring his, I am sure, fascinating discourse on whatever that was in that corner of the screen. But we'll try to make that happen for next week. In all sincerity, though, I very much want to thank Marin and George for joining me. For those listening and watching this podcast, genuinely apologize for whatever the glitch was getting this one up. Streaming was being weird. But we will post it regardless to YouTube. And we'll be back again next week with another concert, another podcast, and hopefully, once again, an attempt with our special guest, Mr. Luce, as we go forward. So anyway, thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time. I still don't know what that is, but okay. Bye-bye, everybody.